large, their neighborhoods are still segregated. When blacks start moving into a more affluent suburb, the result is still something called white flight.
We're forced to move out because the activity just didn't exist. When that marquee stopped lighting up at night, Flatbush Avenue took on a completely different atmosphere. However, it's my very, very strong feeling that we can make changes and revitalize the community, give it a real viability to the people in the area. But that is going to be dependent almost completely upon the people who live here.
American also, the whole thesis was created to take elements of popular American society and show how black people had a hand in them. I remember this top editor from a financial magazine. He goes, I'm not coming to any more of your shows. They're just so negative. And I was like, you can't see that this is for us? So many of us, like when we get money or we get like opportunities, we get like platforms, the first thing that we do is leave. And some of you guys have been doing this with me for years, so like slowly but surely I've been finding my way back, and now we're finally like home. It's okay to talk about pets, and it's okay to talk about veganism, it's okay to talk about water and famines and things like that, but when you talk about black people, it's like, oh, you're a pariah. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna lean all the way in and I'm gonna do that. This one is called Sister, and this focuses on the birth of rock and roll. If you ask anybody outside of America what does rock and roll look like, they're gonna describe Metallica and shit like that. Actually, a black woman named Sister Rosetta Tharpe invented what we now know as rock and roll. Not Chuck Berry, not Elvis Presley, it was actually a black queer woman in the church who invented what the sound that we know now as rock and roll. For me, it's like the location is super important. There's gonna be a lot of kids in there who it's their first fashion show. It's their first time ever being allowed into like a space that's like typically elitist and very secluded.
We're more than the statistic. We're more than the bad story. We're more than the killings. We're more than that. I'm really showing it for us, right? So like the way I see you, it's not the way that somebody who's not of our culture is going to see you, and I want you to know deliberately that I'm speaking to you versus everybody else.
Absolutely not. In the beginning, I like with a passion, I want to say ferociously, hid the fact that I was black from the public view until I couldn't anymore, which wasn't much long. But the minute people realized they liked my work and they saw me, then the two things couldn't coexist, and my work couldn't just be what it was. It had to become something else. If I was making $50,000 evening gowns, they would have still called me a streetwear designer. And I had the foresight to know that was coming, and and I knew there were going to be labels that I wasn't going to escape, and I knew there was going to be comparisons that I couldn't escape, and I knew that I was going to be given a shelf life. I remember one of the first desk sides I ever did, and if you guys don't know what desk sides are, it's when your publicist takes a designer to meet an editor. You sit at their desk. That's why they call it a desk side, and you present them your collection. So you bring like a selected, if you have a 40-piece collection, you bring them like 10 pieces or 5 pieces, whatever the case is. And this is my first ever desk side, and I remember rolling these racks down Fifth Avenue to go. I was super excited and nervous. I didn't know this was 2014 or 2013, and the guy was like, "Listen, I'm not even gonna bother to look at the clothes." He was like, "I'm just gonna tell you right now, there's a wave happening with you, with Ben Trill, with Noir, with Public School, and you gotta ride that wave like the Latin explosion. Like like Mark Anthony and Ricky Martin. You guys have to make that Macarena money, and you know, all of those things, all of those microaggressions and macroaggressions, made it very unsafe for me to be myself. And so at first it wasn't easy, but at some point, you know, you start realizing that playing that game is never gonna work. You know, you're gonna be forced to speak a way it's not natural for you. You're gonna be forced to like be a certain way that's not natural for you. And at some point, you got to give up their game and play what's authentically yours. And it might take longer, but it's worth it in the end.
I don't think this show about to happen.